of the January 25th resolution.
For dignity, democracy and social justice 4 years ago, those were the slogans under which the January 25th revolution erupted. The revolution of 2011, locally known as the January 25th revolution, consisted of demonstrations, marches, plaza occupations and riots. Millions of protesters from a range of socio-economic and religious backgrounds demanded the overthrow of Hosni Mubarak. The protests, which took place in Cairo and Alexandria as well as other cities, followed the Tunisian Revolution. The Tunisian Revolution overthrew dictator Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali on the 14th of January. Immediately in the aftermath of the removal of the Tunisian president, some bloggers and Facebook youth called for demonstrations demanding dignity, democracy and social justice. Because of a number of grievances that started to come to the surface, particularly in the last 5 years of the Mubarak regime, where daily protests by different of the population became the norm. These protesters include a wide variety of the population that never before took part in any political or even economic movement. Hence, when the youth of Facebook called for the demonstrations to change the ruling regime, to the surprise of the ruling clique and even to the protesters themselves, not only a few thousand showed up, but increasingly millions of Egyptians from nearly every part of the country came to the fore. As everyone now knows, as the movement gained momentum and regime's concession space was slow to follow, the demands of the protesters heightened, from political reforms to the overthrow of Mubarak to more radical political change as well as social ones. With the death of demonstrators in the city of Suez, the demonstrations took a new leap to reach millions over all Egypt. At the final days that preceded Mubarak's final declaration of his resignation, the workers of nearly all sectors joined the movement with strikes in the workplaces, and a state of what can be called civil disobedience became a reality. Probably the most important gain in this revolution is the change that took place in many of the Egyptian people themselves. The demonstrations and sit-ins, particularly in Tahrir Square, represented one of the most fascinating historical dramas in Egypt's modern history. Aside from the high degree of politicization that took place in the square, the stories of heroism, solidarity and sense of community that was built up will always stay in the minds and souls of the people. Muslims and Christians struggled together under the slogans "Muslims and Christians, we are all Egyptians, we are all one hand." Many held each other and raised the victory sign with their hands to the media and onlookers. Men and women, veiled and non-veiled, stood side by side to protect each other and struggle on equal grounds without friction or harassment.
ليا الشرف بإنه عشان بلادي وسبت أهلي لبلاد عشان ولادي فداكي دمي كل حاجة مصر عربي في البرد واقف بحمي أرضي وفي عز شمس الحر عمري ما أكون عديد حبك يا بلدي جوا قلبي ملوش مثيل ظابط أو مجند أو أمين مؤمن بربي ليا قبل البطولين مقبلش عالبلد دي أي شيء مشين ونمت غدر دمي في القلوب.
Mr. Sherif Taher, member of the Left Party's High Commission. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'll start off our discussion by asking you, obviously, 4 years on from the revolution, has it achieved any of its aims?
Most certainly it hasn't achieved all of its aims, that's for sure. It has achieved part of its aims. We have to remember that in 2010, most of the Egyptians haven't had any hope of real change, and we were all suffering from what we called then stagnation. 30 years of rule for Mubarak, and the system has almost appeared to be completely frozen. And then came 2011, and the revolution inspired a lot of hope in a lot of Egyptians. Now, one major achievement that I always stick by is that after January 2011, Egyptians have become, the people have become a major player in the Egyptian scene and Egyptian politics. That has never been the case before January 2011. We've seen how in elections before 2011, people have dealt with that very, extremely uninterested sort of fashion, and people didn't really turn out for elections, so the better elections would turnout would have been like 10% or 15% at best, and in some elections like the municipal elections or the shura elections were 7%. Now that has long gone. Egyptians have taken part in their own politics. They are going to turn out, they have turned out in the elections and referendums in the past 4 years, and they will turn out again. Egyptians have become part of the game, of the political game, if you wish. So that's one major achievement, because once they do that, once the people in power know that they are answering to the people through fair elections, then the whole scene will change. You have to understand, Egypt is not a small country. Egypt is a very large country with a huge population, 90 million people almost. So it is not easy for a country like that to change direction in 4 years. 4 years in terms of Egyptian history is next to nothing. It's just one dot on our timeline. So we have achieved a change in direction, definitely. There's a lot more that we aspire for. A lot of people have died throughout these 4 years. We would love to believe that they did not die in vain, and that we will eventually reach the point where we all live in a country that is prosperous.
Hopefully. So, Mr. Sherif, if you'll allow me just to take a quick break before we welcome our second guest here in the studio. Please stay with us.
علاقة بمسؤولية القوات المسلحة والتزاما بحماية الشعب، الاستمرار في الانعقاد بشكل متواصل للحفاظ على الوطن ومقتضيات الشعب المصري العظيم.
The Egyptian Army, the shield of the nation. January 25th Revolution. The army stands by the people.
لو آخر نقطة دم طلعت مننا قوة مسلحة الدولة خرجت.
The army and the people, one hand. When a revolution breaks out in Egypt, it matters. When Egyptians make history, it matters. When those who protect us put their lives on the line, it matters. Sharing the good news and the hard news.
to the heart of events.
Welcome back, and joining me in the studio is Sassia, a political activist and member of the Free Egyptians Party. Thank you very much for coming in. Obviously, a question I just posed to Mr. Sherif just before the break was 4 years on. Do you believe that the revolution has achieved some of its aims?
Well, apart from everything, let me first say that we mourn the death of people who took part of the revolution. Unfortunately, I don't believe that the goals of revolution are yet achieved. Some of it may have been achieved to a specific part of it, but generally speaking, no, I do not believe that the goals of the 25th revolution are completely achieved at the moment. Otherwise, we would be celebrating down the streets right now of what the 25th of the revolution was all about. However, I believe that right now the people look at the 25th of the revolution as it opened the gates of hell on Egypt, as the Muslim Brotherhood took over the revolution and took advantage of the people who took part of it, turned tables and turned everything upside down. So when people look back at the 25th of January, they don't look back as it's some sort of accomplishment, but they look at it with regret and pain.
So there is this polarization, Mr. Sherif, when it comes to looking back at the January 25th revolution. It is no longer, as Sassia just said, viewed by all Egyptians as, this great revolution where we got our freedom and we're able to express ourselves freely, etc., etc. But it's sort of a lot of people have now associated the January 25th revolution with the Terrorist Brotherhood organization. What do you think has happened?
It is quite understandable because, as Josh was saying, there has been a dramatic turn of events when the Brotherhood took power after the